Hey guys, welcome to Multitaskr. I'm Joe Frosto, CEO and founder of Multitaskr, a marketplace where we unite homeowners and the best service providers in your area. But today I want to welcome you to our podcast. It's called the Home Solutions Network Podcast, and we're going to be introducing the top service providers, clients that have used our marketplace, and some of the people that direct this company, and very exciting stories. The goal of the podcast is to save you time, save you money, give you insights, give you tips, and create value for your home. So come on in and let's check it out. Hello everyone, welcome to Multitaskr Home Solution Network Podcast, a marketplace where we unite homeowners and service providers. In today's episode, I am honored to have State Senator Bob Wieckowski of District 10 join us as we continue our focus on the golden year of ADUs. Senator Wieckowski discusses how he is working on making ADUs more accessible and shares insights into SB 1069, SB 229, and SB 13. So let's see what he says. So Senator Wieckowski, pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining us today. And so our listeners can get to know you a bit better. Can you please share a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. I'm, born in San Francisco. My parents moved like everybody else in 1959 to the suburbs. And my brothers and sisters and I were raised in Fremont. And I actually bought the house in back of my parents. So I'm back in Fremont. But I, graduated from Cal, went to Washington, D.C. for 5 years, came back home to Santa Clara and got a law degree and started practicing in bankruptcy law. So I do a whole body of work with representing poor people. But once you've done 5 years in D.C., you're sort of a local political person. And I got into the Planning Commission, where I've had my first exposure to, we passed a secondary mother-in-law ordinance. It was from the year 2000. Every city had to pass a law on how to, ordinance how to make their secondary units. And I always thought the secondary units were a cool thing. In college, I lived in 2 different secondary units at different times. And I was stunned that there was no secondary units being built. Fremont's got 240,000 people, and there was like 1 or 2 a year, same way with everybody else. And looked at these laws, and they were so restrictive that you'd have to be Harry Houdini to try to get a magic act together something built. So then I ended up being on the city council and then running for assembly, and then now in the Senate. So I've been blessed with the people in the area vote for me, and I get to serve them.
Awesome.
And I'm celebrating my 20th anniversary of my lovely wife, Sue Lemke, today.
Hey, great. Congratulations on that. Awesome. Well, you share a focus on job creation, clean technologies, protecting our environment, and reducing unnecessary regulations. These are all important and align with similar beliefs we have here at Multitaskr. What tips or suggestions would you share with homeowners on ways they can incorporate into their home when it comes to clean technologies and protecting our environment?
Well, next week, I chair the budget subcommittee on energy resources. We do climate and the drought bill and the wildfire bill, but we're going to be doing cap and trade. And one of the things that we have in cap and trade are different programs for energy efficiency and water efficiency to reduce the amount of carbon. So we're going to be putting money in there for weatherization, something as simple as weatherization. If you live in an area that's close to the urban wildlife interface, we want people to harden their homes and make their homes protected. It'd be great to put solar energy on your roof and get solar hot water and that, but there's others. There's weatherization methods, even windows. I mean, if you have a suburban house and it's got 60-year-old windows, that you can people can price you $6,000 and you can get all the windows done. I mean, you can pay $60,000. I get that, but there's ways to make, because there's so much energy that's lost from our buildings. We talk about smokestacks and cement making and refineries, and we talk about automobiles. Everybody wants an electric Tesla, but our homes and some of the buildings can really be an energy waster, and it's about insulating it and doing some basic stuff, because when energy was cheap, my home built in 1959 was not insulated. in Fremont, California. They just built it and said, just run the heater if you get cold. So those things.
Wow.
I would put in a tip that we want people to do drought resistant landscapes. We just passed the drought bill out of my subcommittee, $3.4 billion. It's going to give money if people have outstanding bills, but look at your landscape and say, okay, let's pretend like it's 2021 and what can I be to be energy efficient?
Well, that's a really good point. So drought resistant landscape.
Yeah.
Right. So you've been successfully authored SB 1069, SB 229, SB 13, landmark reform bills to eliminate unnecessary barriers to the development of ADUs, accessory dwelling units. Can you please share some insight into SB 1069 so our audience can have a better understanding of each of those bills? We'll start off with 1069.
Right. So the landscape in 2016 was that, everybody was talking about the housing crisis, and everybody, has got infatuated with, $500,000 subsidized housing for low-income people built in, an urban, transit-rich, housing-rich area. Okay, that's great. The reality was that based on the 2000 law that required all cities to pass secondary dwelling units, they had effectively made it impossible for anybody to build a secondary unit. So what we did is we said, let's change that. Because what they were doing is they were looking at the mother house and saying, if you want to build an accessory or an ADU, it was just like building a second house. So they would charge you $100,000 impact fee because of the impacts on the schools and the sewer district and all that type of stuff.
Wow.
And you look at the numbers and it was pitiful. And the cities hate me and the counties hate me. Anybody that thinks that they had local control. So what we did is fundamentally we changed the definition. We said it's an accessory dwelling unit. So it's an accessory to the house that you have. So you're already entitled to it. People forget that one of the big changes was that if you live within a half a mile of transit, not major transit because they can manipulate that. If there's a bus stop within a half a mile of your house, you had an absolute right to build an ADU. Mm-hmm. That was probably the most fundamental thing because we said, homeowner, it's up to you whether you have an ADU. And the second thing we did, which a lot of people miss, is that we said, if you have a local ordinance, which is out of sync with the state law, it's void, not voidable. Now, I don't want to get too legal, but it means that it's not like a paragraph gets knocked out. The whole law gets knocked out. And beginning in January 1, 2017, everybody had to follow the state law. And there were other things in there. Probably the biggest one is that you couldn't require parking. Cities playing these big games about they couldn't. You have to build if you converted your garage, you had to build a standalone garage, and there was no way to get it because it took up your whole lot. So we said no, you don't have to require parking. You don't have to park on the apron. It's up to the homeowner to do it. And then the other thing that it'll help explain 229 later on is that we said it's up to the homeowner on whether they want to have the hookup fees. I can use my sewer, I could use my electric, I could use my water and pipe it into the ADU. I could get separate service if I wanted to, because, again, the sewer districts were charging you $25,000, $30,000 just to hook up to the system. And, the reality is that, Sue and I built a 440-foot addition into our house. She got the kitchen that she wanted to, and we took this littlest bedroom and made it the master bedroom with another bathroom, right? So we built a bathroom, we built a 440-foot addition, and we put in another stove, right? Now we have 2 ovens instead of 1, right? So we got another oven, we went with 6 boilers. So we added all the things that you would have with an ADU, and it was done in 1 day. So one of the things that they argued was that we wanted them to give permits into 60 days. Mm-hmm. And they argued that, no, we had to take an amendment. David Chu made me take an amendment that it would be 120 days in order to issue the permit. But I wanted to streamline it. And just those changes, there were other changes, but just those changes were revolutionary. Because all of a sudden, now the power rested with the homeowner, not with somebody sitting on the planning commission or the city council. And everybody, that was with a half mile said, I put an attached. The other thing is that if you wanted to subdivide your house, you could do that anywhere. You could do that anywhere. That was, if you have 4,000 square feet and you're 2 miles from a transit line, you could subdivide your house and make an ADU in between there. So there was a renaissance, Joe, and so to speak, when that thing passed in 2016.
Great. And so in regards to SB 229, why is this bill important and how would it help homeowners?
Well, there's bad actors in this arena. So what happens, the special districts came in and they said, in paragraph 1, you didn't list us as special districts. You said cities, counties, you didn't list us. Even though I negotiated with them, the hookup fee that people had the right to hook into their existing water or sewer line. So I had to go in and said, yes, special districts, even though they negotiated this language, this bill applied. The other thing I had to do was define tandem parking. I mean, everybody who's on this, watching this knows what tandem parking is, but I didn't put tandem parking definition in 1069. So I had to put tandem parking. So there were really technical cleanups and I was mindful that a lot of these cities were resistant. Their laws had gotten knocked down and they were trying to figure out, quite frankly, how they can be restrictive about the number of ADUs that were being built when the public at that time and all over was going crazy about, hey, we can build this ADU. There were still other problems that had to be dealt with. And I had to take amendments to take elements out. And that's when SB 13 came up.
Okay. And so what are the misconceptions about SB 13?
Well, the misconceptions is that we're taking money away from cities. That this was what we found out is that while they couldn't charge you a hookup fee, they could charge you this impact fee. And what we did is we said 750 square feet is, I call it the senator's model, right? If you have 750 square feet or less, there is no impact fee with the schools or the city. It's for free. Now you got to pay for a permit, you got to pay for the inspections and all that. But just this amorphous, you're impacting our community, that went away. That was huge. Then we had this idea that they wanted home ownership. Some of the cities were saying you had to live in with the ADU, or you had to live in the house in order to rent it out. Well, if you own an apartment complex, the owner of the apartment complex doesn't live in unit number 11, or if you have a fourplex, all these other forms of housing, we don't require anybody. So again, I got that in, but it has a 5-year sunset. So next year, I'll be extending that sunset. And then what I call all the bootlegs, for the last 4 decades, people have been building ADUs. They just haven't been getting permits. And many of them, it's a potpourri. Some people built them up to code. They just didn't at the time. It was 1986 and it was built to the code in 86. We needed a mechanism for people to legalize them as long as they were safe. You don't have to bring them up to code. That's another misconception, is that you have to bring it up to code 2021. No. It just has to be safe, and if it was up to code at the time, it's all the way, it's in. When we did 229, once we started looking at it, we found the 1977 Accountability Act required cities to adopt these permits within 30 days. So I had it at 60 days. They were arguing with me that it's not enough time. We need more time. And the law at that time was 30 days. So I got rid of the 120 days and brought it back to 30 and said, you're done. Again, this is they're organized, the planners of all these cities or the counties come in and the special districts, they're, very aggressive or very, they're committed to what they think is the best thing. So, and we did some other things. Some of my colleagues passed bills that would allow for 2 ADUs, right? Right now in the state of California, you can build an attached ADU onto your house and then a separate ADU. Now, I would say to cities, and we got setbacks. That's another thing, is we got setbacks to 4 feet from the back, because some cities were saying that you had to be 20 feet from the back lot. Well, my backyard's not that big if I'm 20 feet from the backyard. And I think, I think I'd like to see cities become more adventurous and embrace ADUs. I grew up on a boulevard on a main street that has one of those, it has an island and a frontage road in front of it. So it's a big boulevard. There's no reason why an ADU couldn't be 4 feet from the lot line, for instance, because the cars that are going by are probably 100 feet, or 70 feet from it. So it builds in a community. You want to have some height that's on that balances off the street instead of this valley, this desert of single family homes. And I know a lot of cities, because I'm critical of them, let's be honest, 80% of the housing stock in California, the single family homes, are 1-story stucco ranch style homes. I mean, people act like it's the most beautiful thing in the world. So what are you talking about? I mean, it's not, there's a lot of stuff that was built after World War II that is stuccoed single family home. And they say, we gotta protect the integrity of our neighborhood and the look of the neighborhood. It's just, that look needs to be refreshed long ago, right? And so I gave up that fight about style, especially it's in my backyard. Why do you care what the style is in my backyard? But that was a give to the locals.
Yeah. And with the cities, I mean, what are you seeing with, because I know we're mainly focused in Southern California right now. But we see different things pop up in different pockets, right? Where suddenly they go, oh, well, the 4 feet is not going to be allowed in our area. It's going to have to be X amount, let 10 feet or 7 feet for setbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, do we just have to just kind of wait until they adapt to it, or?
Well, I mean, the problem is, and there was my colleague introduced a bill to undo the 4-foot setbacks, and we killed it in the housing committee. It's not going to go anywhere because it's saying they want to have good neighbors. Mm-hmm. What are you talking about, good neighbors? I mean, this idea that somebody has a 1-acre parcel and they're going to put the ADU on one little corner right next to Mo Curley and Larry that live there, and Mo Curley and Larry are going to be mad, saying, well, one, I don't know the topography of it, but that's somebody's, maybe it's their mother-in-law and they want her as far away from their mother house as they could be. I don't know what the different, but it's one of those manipulations that say, oh, let us have some control here. But it's really it's another way to get to know this, the city planners are all a nice group of people, but they have essentially for 25 years put a halt on accessory dwelling units. The way that they deal with you San Jose does a pretty good job with giving permits, and so does LA. Although LA hasn't adopted an ordinance, they just following the state law and saying, hey, go, go, go. Mm-hmm. But these are big cities that should have a designated person or persons that just do ADUs. Mm-hmm. And San Jose, until recently, you would go in with your application and you'd get 29 days into it, and Betty would go on maternity leave, and then Bill takes over the deal and he starts all over. He doesn't just take it and say, oh, this is done and stamp it. He starts all over, and they play that little game, which is, I mean, cities have got to wake up and stop trying to make nickel and dime people to death. They're trying to make so much money. And again, I explained to them that, listen, you have a responsibility to build for your housing element. You've got to build so many units. ADUs, by definition, count as affordable housing in my mind. They're just by design, they're affordable. But for, have the person build it, ask them who's living in there, send them a survey 1 month. Who are you renting it to? And they say, well, we're not renting it. My cousin is living in there for free. That's extremely low income under the state of California. So check the box, city. You got another extremely low income. Now, due diligence would say every 3 years, ask them again and what it is. And now they say, okay, and now my brother's in there. He's paying me $500. Well, that's still pretty low income, right? Mm-hmm. So it helps them with their housing element. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is that's their praise value. Your listeners know that if I build $150,000 ADU, then my assessed value is going to go up because I've enriched that. So part of that is going to be my property taxes. Now the property taxes will go up $1,500. It's not a grand slam in baseball parlance, but it's still something. And if you have $1,500, then you got $150,000. You're building wealth, but slow, versus their old mentality is that I want $100,000 off for you before you pick up the hammer. And that's just, that's bankrupt philosophy when you're in a crisis trying to house people and create community, recreate community. You got a lot of suburbs, a lot of cities that are tired. They're tired little houses, and this is a way to energize them, and particularly getting the bootleg units, the unpermitted units, to go in there, to get a program in the city that you reach out and you say, okay, you got to take out the garage door. You got this phony garage door there. Take out the garage door, put in a window, and make it look like it's a unit. It's okay. You're legal now. People are hiding this back door. Just say, here's a window, here's a door. You walk in, and but while you're at it, why don't you just refresh the front of it, make it look like a little cottage, something to make it cute.
So basically, the largest resistance for local city government, I would say, is that they're just accustomed to doing things the old way, right? And trying to charge as much as they can with the new construction. Is that kind of the biggest misconception that they have right now then?
Right. I mean, they just make it so difficult. And, you could go to different counties. San Mateo County's got a great website on ADUs. You go into different counties, and I would think, if I'm here in Alameda, or I'm here in Sacramento County, let's say Sacramento, right? Sacramento, I should be able to go to the planner and say, here's San Benito County. This is what they approved this ADU, my cousin Louis, all right? And I want to build that same thing in ADU. So here's the picture of it. This is what it looks like. Here are the plans. I give them to them. They say, that's good for us, stamp, and you get your permit in one day. You should be able to link these, cities should have ideas of, now there's a lot of modular units. Okay, look at the modular unit, check it. But once LA and Orange County and Riverside approve it, why is San Bernardino waiting 60 days to approve my unit, right? That they should allow those things to be done quickly. What the city should also be doing is they should be outreaching to the unpermitted units, because here's the deal. I got somebody living in my unpermitted unit. If I say I want to fix it up, I want to do the right thing, where do they go? Do they become homeless? So, this project room key that the governor has and all that, the city should give priority to those people to say, okay, you're going to be displaced. We've got the work order. We know what they're going to do. They're going to put in new electricity. They're going to actually redo the kitchen, right? They're going to make it all electric. They're getting rid of the gas and they're putting all electric, but you're going to be out for 30 to 45 days. So maybe 6 weeks, right? 6 weeks. Here's project room key. You got a room, you're single, your daughter can go in there and make it easier for people to do the right thing, right? And the nice thing that you're doing, and what happens when everybody sees an ADU, they realize it's not a monster. This is actually nice. They would say, my wife, having to listen to me with this stuff, is thinking, well, do you think we should build an ADU so Luke and Kate can come live with us? Those are nice dinner table conversations about people looking at folks, and you energize the communities, in the homeowners.
Great. And from your perspective, homeowners, why do you think they should, take advantage of your bills and build an ADU?
Well, about a third of the extremely low income folks that access our pantries and our, food banks are homeowners. 2/3 are renters, but a third of them are. So they bought a house once upon a time because they had money. It's paid for. They're making the property taxes because they're low, but they can't afford a broken window because they got Social Security and that's it. So some of those people would like to have a financial tool. They can't borrow money because they have Social Security. But if they could get access to capital and build an ADU or convert, they got 4-bedroom house. They don't need the 4-bedroom house. They're there by themselves. They're a widow or a widower, or maybe they're still just an old couple, right? But they could convert a portion of their house to an ADU and basically get a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, and then rent out that other portion of their house. I mean, rent out the bigger side of the house and live in the ADU. So they get and they don't need that much space. And maybe they keep the garage or whatever it is. So there's people that economically need it for themselves. There's, guys your age, people trying to get into the housing market. Mm-hmm. An ADU allows them to go in and buy a house. Let's say you're married or not married, but a couple go in, they want to buy a house. They could actually, before they move in, convert portion of it to an ADU and live in the ADU and then rent out the other portion of the house until they have their family and then flip. So it's a way to get home ownership for some people that are just a little bit, just not there. They say, I can't afford, we've saved the money, but God, I can't afford $5,000 a month for a mortgage payment. And they say, well, let us rent that out and we'll live in the ADU. And then there's sort of the boomerang kids, the family. I mean, we just don't know because of the economy when somebody in our family is faced with a divorce. I mean, think of all the people that get divorced that it would be nice for them because they got to move, at least here, in LA, they got to move out to Riverside or San Bernardino. They're out in the Inland Empire, because they can't afford anything else. And say, wouldn't it be nice if you just lived down the street in a garage converted ADU, paying a little bit of money, but then you mow your own lawn, you get to, or used to be your house, you mow the lawn, or you convert it to a drought resistant thing, and you see your kids, and your kids come by and they say, hey, you want to shoot baskets or something like that, whatever. People, again, you try to keep associations with your community together. So there's lots of different reasons for people to do it. But I think we're going to see more and more of them as we go forward, as some of these roadblocks get removed. And that's what my job is, to remove roadblocks.
Exactly. No, and that's one of the, we've been pretty successful educating consumers and getting them through that hump of actually saying, let's go, because we're able to educate them, like you said, on showing them the value of, hey, I'm trying to buy this property. Can I build something? Yes, you can. Here's the funds to do it. Here's how much it's going to cost, etc. Connecting those two dots are making it simpler and simpler to get people to say, okay, let's do it, right? Because they feel like we have their back. But then again, our first roadblock is the city, right? Once we go, okay, everything's good, let's move forward. We submit permits, like you said, they're taking forever. Right now, there's a huge backlog with skeleton crews because of COVID and people working from home. And like you said, maybe John gets the file and then suddenly he gets sick and then Betty has to get it and now she starts over again. So, but yeah, I mean,
it's mind-boggling to me. What are they analyzing? I mean, I got a 500 square foot cottage in the back of my yard. What exactly are you analyzing here? Where is the complication about this? Is a standalone unit, looks cute as like, a Norman Rockwell painting. And you want me to go through and explain what it is. I mean, even a first year architect student could look at it and say, I get it, do it, build it. I mean, look at your city, people. I mean, some of these people have a perverse view of the value of their city and saying, walk your neighborhood. I mean, COVID let us walk our neighborhood and look at how many properties are run down, how many properties that people can't keep them up. And if you have an opportunity to have a renaissance where you bring other folks in and somebody else wants to improve their property, maybe the next door neighbor will paint his house. Maybe it won't be a big deal, but there's an energy that's created. It's mind-boggling to me. It's mind-boggling what they're thinking about, and the pettiness about what windows you're choosing and what the lining is on your door and why do you have it here, and saying, hey, dude, I mean, it's a problem because these people don't make money. They don't know what it is to have a budget and what that delay is. And when you're trying to schedule people, how that works, they're like on an island. and they got nothing to worry about what you want to do. And you're sitting here and saying, okay, Cal State Los Angeles. I own a house 3 blocks from Cal State Los Angeles. Do you think there may be one student that may want to live there? Just maybe one. I don't know. It's not a big lift in saying, I want to put this in now because we've done COVID. It's May 5th. I want the permit now because I'm going to build it over the summer. And August 15th, I want a little sign. I'm going to make my own sign, ADU for rent, and maybe some professor or some TA or just some freshman comes in and said, this is lovely. It's a little cottage. Thank God the city planner allowed me to build it. Right.
Yep. Yeah. I was talking to some developer at the time, and he was telling me that he's getting approvals in Texas for 60 days or 45 to 60 days to be able to build their ADUs. And I'm like, what? You're telling me? Yeah.
It should be, when all these bills, 1069, 229, 13, every time I testified, I said, this should be an over-the-counter 1-day permit. And I used myself. I said, in 2015 or 2014, we did a 440-foot addition, and it was a 1-day permit because it was less than 50% of the house. It was single story. And I said, I put in another stove, another bathroom, and a bedroom, and 440 feet. That's an ADU right there. And why does a standalone cost so much time? Yeah. So they're getting there, it's work podcasts like this or workshops, because of COVID. I used to do the circuit where I would go into cities, and I'll start doing that again in the summer where I'll talk about the bill. I'll talk about the problems. I want to hear from people about they have, we're working on the finance piece, right? We're trying to figure out how we can get people, because there's a lot of people that can't afford the upfront cost and the bank won't approve the loan. But if they had the ADU built and there's a human being that signed the lease that said, I'm going to pay X, they can make that nut. And again, you talked about this in the beginning, is people are trying to build wealth. I mean, people want to build wealth, and they say, I got this house and it's worth $800,000. I don't know how that happened, but I'd like to be worth $1 million, and I want to put an ADU in. And so when I sell it, people are going to say, oh, you have rental income plus your home. And again, the modern family is such that may be just the posse's coming in to live where you were living. So
great.
It's
we'll maybe after this, we'll talk some other time for the funding side, where I'm working on certain things as well with some investors that we're trying to create our own funding instruments for that. We're actually integrating fund control to our platform too, to be able to to give more security to banks that everything's going to live in fund control, and utilizing that so they can kind of get the reassurance, right? So we're actually doing some pilots right now with their own funds to be able to show banks, look at what we're doing, it works, right? And utilizing some sort of a rental property management factor to it as well. So then we can kind of show the reassurance, and then for consumers, getting them extra income that they weren't receiving, and then eventually helping them create a path to maybe being able to refinance 3-5 years down the line, pay back that debt, and now they own the unit, right? So
right, and we're making sure that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac don't call in their loans. That the concern is that they're going to say, oh, this is a second unit, so this triggers, you got to pay off your loan. And nobody, I don't know who in Washington, D.C. in the previous administration thought that was a trigger, but that's what we're dealing with. So want to make sure everybody feels comfortable and confident. So
100%. Well, from our perspective, what can we do to help you? We're spreading a lot of knowledge out there. A lot of clients are starting to know us and signing up with us to be able to be that person to hold a hand through the ADU process. So we're seeing that we're going to have more and more volume as we keep growing through the state. But we're definitely going to be stuck, right, in the cities. What can we do to help you, and vice versa? How can we team up on
to
tackle?
Well, one, this is a good thing having the podcast and talking about, the different, whether you have an elderly person, a student, or you just want to be a good guy and build equity in your property. I mean, there's many reasons that have people that are interested in ADU. The other question is the other point is that listeners can contact my office, right? I have one would say a special relationship with the Housing and Community Development. They send out model laws to the cities. We're asking, part of SB 13 said, you got to send when you're writing your ADU law or upgrading your ADU law, you send it to the state Housing Community Development so they can double check that it's in compliance with state laws. So trying to build that relationship with getting the good cities to do more and getting the good cities to be really example, but then also taking the laggers, the slowest moving cities, and really, SB 13 gave the Attorney General the power to sue them, right? That's another little, it's, if you do not enforce the law and the state law, or you pass a law that's void, then you've got to issue that permit. So the idea is that, it's basically saying that the Attorney General could actually issue housing permits to people if you got a recalcitrant city that wouldn't issue it, right? If you were in compliance with everything else. Now, obviously, we don't want to get there, right? I mean, it's better to give people a little sugar than beat them with a stick, right? I mean, but you need to have that threat to say, cities, we're serious about this. We're serious about this, and don't and these are rich cities and poor cities, right? So that they can contact us, and then, your office and can help us out, because we're going to try to figure out what are the continuing roadblocks and what needs to be done. Again, I think it's part of it is education. And again, my side is to educate cities about, take about the unpermitted. There's probably a lot of people that are here to saying, I never got this permitted, and I'd like to actually become legal. Now there's an amnesty program, right? But if you had a hard time going through the city clean and just saying, I want to get a permit, think about when you go in the city and said, I had this ADU for 30 years, and now I want to follow Wieckowski's bill and get it permitted, right? They could be ugly. So we're familiar with that and saying, okay, I want to do the right thing, but you don't want this guy says, rip out this, rip out that. So we need intermediaries that can go in there, and we're trying to give HCD and independent affordable housing advocates the authority to come in and say, actually, you don't have to do that. This was built in 1992. 1992 code says this was this. They did this right. You don't have to rip this out and do $12,000 worth of work. Again, it could be a very painful process if it's your property, right? You don't want to expose yourself to that, but those are the things that this education journey that we're on to try to get people, because the fact that I did a bill that now says you can sue the city to get your ADU, that's nothing. I mean, it's a threat, but you don't want to do that. You want to just say, give me my permit and leave me alone, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll pay for the inspection and I'll do the stuff, but I always say, if we're actually going to do it and you get regular people to do construction, how bad could the construction be for a 450 square foot unit in your backyard? I mean, what is going to go wrong, right? I mean, how is that going to fall down? I mean, I'm not a carpenter, but I'm pretty sure, it's not a very complicated, task. The same thing, converting your garage. Assume that your garage is sturdy. Obviously, you want people to know what they're doing, but it's the finished product, right? So it's keep doing what you're doing, and have the viewers are invited to contact my office, and if they've got a horror story, it helps me, talk to HCD. Again, I have 13 cities that I represent, but I share that information as saying, this is a reason why we need to take some more action, right?
True. Yeah, we're all about educating homeowners, and so really appreciate that. They could reach out to you if there's any questions, and if we have any horror stories, we'll definitely reach out to you as well and see what we can do to tackle them. Did you? I don't know if you were able to see a little bit of the link that we sent you. If not, I want to share the screen and show you what it is and what the intention is with what that link that we sent you. Did you see it by any chance?
VR technology?
Yep.
No, I actually didn't. I didn't. This is my maiden exposure to it.
Let's do it. So I'm going to share my screen with you. It'll probably be easier, and then you can do it in your own time here. But can you see this? Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's beautiful.
So let me tell you
white bathroom.
Let me tell you what this is real quick. So what's going to happen is in 2 months from now, we're finalizing a couple of things, but our website is going to be changing, and so consumers will be able to plug in their address, and then they'll get information on various factors on if they can build an ADU or what's kind of the best use of the property. They can look at rentals and future values. Also, if they can save money with different like what you said about the drought resistance landscape, how much money they would save, etc. And then that's kind of the first part. And then the second part is they can go in our showroom, which is a web VR showroom, or you could actually even put on your goggles and walk the showroom, and you'll be able to design your ADU, design your landscape, design your kitchen, design your bathroom, and it'll be tied to your zip code. And so every time you're changing layouts, it'll give you price ranges, financing cost, future value based on where you live, right? So we're going to be launching it first in Southern California, and then eventually going up to Northern California by the end of the year. But that's kind of the first part of our showroom. So imagine like a digital IKEA kind of, right? And we're already having brands call us. Like, for example, we're working with a couple of brands that are calling us and saying, can we do product placement in your showroom? Can we put our brand? So it'll be great, because the more exposure we get, the better pricing overall, and then we can give those pricing discounts to consumers and package it all together to them. So this is also going to be something where people could actually connect and have Zoom calls, and you'll be walking the showroom with little avatars, and kind of they can guide you through the showroom and design everything, interior, exterior, etc. So just wanted to share that with you real quick.
No, it's lovely, and the deck speaks for itself. But what the idea that you have maybe a modest 600 square foot ADU, but you have, we're in California, and it's I know Sunset Magazine closed their door, but the concept of outdoor living and what that means to sort of bring living room area, that you're not watching TV, but living room area outside, because 300 days out of the year you're actually be able to sit outside and enjoy that, and it ties together the mother house and the ADU. Really nice. I like the modern touches too. I think it's one of the things when I actually visited Los Angeles and went to some ADUs. They were converting. These were guys that take the garages in the alleyway and convert them. And what they were doing was popping up the ceiling. So it was 12-foot ceilings. And it's, when you have a small space, that having that height really gives you, it doesn't make it you don't gain any square footage, right? But it really makes it opens up the space, and it makes you feel like you're not cramped. I mean, a 7-foot ceiling would make you feel like, okay, this is going to be a troublesome. And those ideas, it's nice that people can see it and try to visualize, okay, I like this kitchen, or this is too modern for me. I want something more traditional, or other people really want something edgy. A lot of folks want, I'm not cooking Thanksgiving dinner in this kitchen. I'm not, exactly. This is not going to be, there's no big turkey going in there. This is who I am, and this is what I need.
Exactly. Yeah. So the idea is that they use this as the first part of saying, okay, I kind of like this. And then when they proceed and they hire us, then what we do is we design in their actual home, the actual, let's say, kitchen or ADU, and then they can actually feel the 7-foot, the 12-foot. It's pretty amazing. Right. I don't know if you ever have experienced the goggles, but when you actually immerse yourself in it, you're literally walking the ADU and feeling if it's 7, 12. So it's really, really cool to see clients when they're going, wow, okay. And what's happening too, it's keeping construction honest, because we're able to negotiate the price to up to the finishes. And because everything is we're trying to avoid a lot of the change orders that cost them more down the line. And so it's really cool, like combining technology and transparency to what they're doing.
Right, and you come up, the price point, the price really goes up when you move to that Miele appliances, right? You say, okay, here's my price, and then I up and you say, wow, that really changes the price of everything. Where the box, the frame that you're going to have, it's relatively, the additional screws and nails and sheetrock that you need is not that much on the 8 foot to the 10 foot, right? I mean, it's something, but it's good that you have that honesty in the pricing.
Yeah, correct.
Well, great. Well, I mean, that's it for us. Just wanted to have this conversation, have listeners out there understand what you're working hard on. I know you're doing a lot, but for the ADUs, those bills are very helpful for the state, and hopefully more and more cities will just work with us and allow homeowners to utilize their backyard properly and do this right for the city and for the state.
Well, it's my pleasure. I know people want to know who is the Godfather. I want to talk to him and how they make this done. So it's my pleasure to be with you on the podcast, and look forward to when things get the pandemic is behind us, and actually you start seeing this construction going on. And I mean, I know there's been a bottleneck with folks, so we're going to work on that, and we're going to be giving some assistance to states, to cities, and I've been working to try to tie some of this loosening up of their ADUs permitting process before we give them more money.
Great. Well, we appreciate. Thank you for being with us, Senator, and hopefully we'll invite you over sometime once this whole COVID loosens up a little bit more and everybody's a little safer. We'll invite you over down to the office and check out what we're doing. Okay.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Senator Wieckowski, thank you again for joining us in Multitaskr's Home Solution Network podcast. And thank you to our listeners. We hope you enjoyed learning from Senator Wieckowski and how he is helping homeowners and businesses when it comes to ADU and the ADU build-out. Don't forget to visit us at www.gomultitaskr.com, your one-stop shop home solutions marketplace that saves you time, saves you money, and increases your home value. Thank you, guys. Hey guys, thank you for joining Multitaskr's Home Solution Network podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please click on subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our next podcasts. Remember, every single podcast, we're going to give you different advice on how to save time, how to save money, and how to create value. Check us out at gomultitaskr.com. Click subscribe.